Hey, everybody, welcome back. We are going to be discussing our Better Business Classics Part 2. So, we're talking about better business books to brighten your education and your world and make you what books made us more well rounded people. However, before we get started too far down that journey today, we just wanted to introduce everybody to two new members of Social Soaring, and we are glad that we are always growing here, and we're very lucky to be able to call these two family. So we just want to introduce you to one Mr. Daniel Broom.
Hello.
Hi, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
He's going to be the new Instagram growth manager here at Social Soaring. And then we have Miss Carol Sandstrom down over in the corner.
Hi.
She is in charge of LinkedIn and better blogging. So she is over charge of all of our blogging coordination now. And we're very, very excited to have one director of blogging.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And we wanted to get a little bit of their insights and everything. Just on business classics themselves. So not to put anybody on the spot, but did anybody bring a book this week that might be of interest to the audience? It's a little bit thrown off course.
Well, I'll start. I have one that I go back to a lot that's basically for teens and young adults, but it just is more about developing certain good habits that help you be the best person you can be. And it's called Way to Be by Gordon B. Hinckley. And the subtitle on it, so I say it right, it's 9 Ways to Be Happy and Make Something of Your Life. And it's simple things that we think about, but we don't always do, like being grateful, being still, sometimes being still long enough for your thoughts to just actually settle and lead you somewhere good. Being humble and being positive, all of them that are really good for helping uplift and affirm you so that you can take that bold step and go and do something that you might not have otherwise done, and maybe even be that person to encourage someone else to take that step and do something that helps everybody, but they may never have even thought about doing if they hadn't had that encouragement. So it's one I go back to a lot that kind of is a building block pretty much in every aspect of my life. So, and it's a short read, it's an easy read, but it's a really good one.
Carol, I need this book for my son. So what was the name of that?
It's called Way to Be, 9 Ways to Be Happy and Make Something of Your Life. It's by Gordon B. Hinckley, Hinkley. It's really good, and it's a simple read. So
he didn't read his one summer book, so I feel like this is a perfect fit.
Oops.
Well, and short and easy is really sometimes great to get kids' attention, and it really maybe like kind of focuses in on just those core little things, hits on them really quick, and gives good insights for each thing to come back to on a quick reference, right? Because it's easy to forget to be helpful or easy to forget those things, but then when you have them almost like kids' songs, right? And it's like stuck in your head. And you're more likely to remember it when it's jazzy like that, I guess.
Well, and also when you get caught up in the chaos of all the grown-up things that we do, sometimes having that to fall back on where it just kind of reminds you, there are basic things that you can do that do make you better and make you more capable. And so it's just kind of, like you said, an easy thing that when I'm in chaos or I'm really stressed out, I can read it and it reminds me, hey, I've got this. I know how to do this. I'm really not as crazy as I think I am. But, so it's just a reminder. Like you say, sometimes the simple things are the easiest things to kind of ground us.
Mm-hmm. Well, we love it, Carol. 2 thumbs up.
Thank you.
Daniel, do you have a fun, inspirational book that you have brought? And before he gets started, if anybody out in the audience, wants to just touch on something, we would always love to hear what you suggest, because we're always looking for the next cool thing for us to read as a group. So yeah, just drop something in the comments if you think of anything. But Daniel, please go right ahead.
Yeah, so I'm uncultured and don't read a lot of those types of books. However, I am very much someone that looks for the hidden messages in other books. So for example, the Harry Potter books, there's this hidden message throughout it, whether people realize it or not, that no matter how insignificant you feel as a person in that book, each one of them have something that they do excel at, and at some point in the series, that thing gets used to help take down like Voldemort, the big bad, the whole time. So like,
Oh, you make me tingle.
like Neville throughout the entire series, they're like, oh, he can't do anything. He's bad at all this. He takes down a Horcrux. He's the one that like breaks through some spells. There's the guy that like constantly blows spells up, and he like helps in the final battle by blowing up an entire bridge full of bad guys. And like, there's just like so much throughout those books where it's like, this person is the insignificant, looked down upon person, but then they like do something that's just above and beyond and amazing. And like, that's stuff that I look at while reading those books. So for me, it's more of a, no matter what you're reading, look for that hidden message.
Well, and that whole series itself is a message of perseverance and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, triumph. Because, I mean, it was 11 publishers who turned it down before it was ever published. I mean, so I'm like you, that series I love reading because I think that there are hidden messages in there if you take the time, you know, maybe she didn't intend it that way, but like you said, it's pointing out the benefit and the value of individuals who don't necessarily fit the mold.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and this, even the fact that like, it's Harry takes these group of outcasts and turns them into like some of the like best witches
Yep.
and wizards to take down someone that their parents were terrified of, and like, we can't deal with this. And these teenagers are like, we can do it. We have been given enough like faith in us that we can stand up to this and handle it.
And I think it's awesome that, you know, just because you're getting something out of it doesn't mean it has to be boring, right?
Exactly.
Something that inspires you and you enjoy. I think you just get more out of reading no matter what when it's something that you enjoy, right? So
Yeah.
find something in anything.
Yeah.
And like she said, I mean, J.K. Rowling, she was turned down like a lot. So, and that teaches us all, right? That it's not about like how many times you fall down. It's just about getting back up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it kind of goes back to,
it's you.
it kind of goes back to like some of those basics we were talking about, because if she hadn't believed in herself, if she hadn't have felt in herself that she had what it took, or that she had something that was worth saying, you know, how many of us would have actually quit if we'd been turned down that many times? You know, how many of us would have stopped at 10 and not taken that last chance?
Mm-hmm. She has a little Hermione in there, right?
Yep, there you go.
Although, in all honesty, can we all admit that Hermione is the real star of all
I
those
know.
books?
I love her.
If she wasn't there, those boys would have died in book one.
Yeah.
They would have been expelled from school and then killed.
Ron has a special little place in my heart. I don't know. I just
Oh, no,
I love
Ron
their
is-
whole family, right? They're
Ron's
just
family
so
is
kind
amazing.
and yeah, don't you just like want to be a part of that family? And I mean, I guess we could do a whole podcast just on Harry Potter. Apparently, we all seem to be pretty into it.
There are parallels. There are parallels.
No, there's a lot of parallels. I mean, it's real life, right?
I think my wand is broken.
Outcasted sometimes.
Yeah, I think my wand is broken, but you know, the fact that there's a spot in there for somebody like me, that's kind of cool.
Or even think about, okay, for like in business, sometimes we put up our own blocks and our own barricades in life. And you know, when they have to walk into that wall to get to, and it's like,
Yep.
what? I'm not going to walk into a wall. Like, but you have to believe and trust that it's not just a wall that you're walking into, right? And you have to break down that barrier to entry. So I think that in and amongst itself is a metaphor in life, I guess.
Good analogy.
Just for how to even cross over to that other side of our creative nature. Like they can't get to that powerful side until they break down that wall. I
Yeah.
guess.
Good point.
So I guess we Harry Pottered it. Sarah, what's your next book?
Well, how do I follow that up? Well, my book came to me from Carol, who suggested it in the last part one. So I went and ordered this great book called Crucial Conversation. All right. And as I started reading it, I grab my sticky tabs because I'm tabbing it and I'm going to send it to Jessica. Because as I got to know Jessica, I feel like there's some points in here that all of us could use, but some of them really spoke to me and are learning when we get to know each other. But this really gives us tools for personal and business when you have to have those high stake conversations. And it's when you're faced with someone with a different opinion or you're trying to get your message across. This gives you the tools to have that conversation. And what I like most about this book is it doesn't just look at it from the moment you get to work, how to have those conversations with the people you work with. It takes you into your personal life as well. Like into, I might get a little personal, like into your relationship, into the bedroom. It has those conversations right in here. And when I started reading this, I thought it was going to be 100% about business, but the personal aspects are what got that really made it, sold it for me. That's why I really like this book.
Well, and I think that the way you handle yourself in life kind of carries over into every aspect of your life. And the reason I started beaming ear to ear when Sarah brought that up about me is because it is one of my biggest weaknesses, and it makes me so happy to know that I have someone that's in my corner that would be like, hey, this is one of your weaknesses. I'm not scared to tell you that. And you read this. So it just really blesses my heart that you would even go out of your way and do all of that for me. But it is definitely tough. Conversations are not the easiest thing for me. They never have been. And I guess because I've been very customer service based, right? So when you've been in a position of customer service, hi, Brian Kirk, for a very long time, you come from a place of yes. And it doesn't matter. It does not matter. It's yes, I will figure it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'll figure it out. I will go down the street and buy you a card and a rose, and I will put it together in the back, and I will do this and I will do that. And I know it has nothing to do with that. And I will sprinkle some stuff over your salad, whatever you want. Yes, and it'll be at your table at 5:30. Yes.
I'm the same person though. Me and you are very similar in that aspect. So when I tab these, I'm tabbing them for myself too, not just you.
No, but I love it.
We lead with our heart. We lead with empathy and understanding. And sometimes it's hard for both of us, because I see myself a lot in you, when we face those points and we have to, really have those conversations. So thank you, Carol, for the wonderful book.
That's what I loved about it, because I've always been a fixer, kind of the mama hen, in groups. And it's like sometimes fixing or trying to help someone fix something means that you do have to have those tough conversations, or the problem never changes. You just change the Band-Aid. And so learning how to do that, and having my boys too, that's, we've had to have a lot of really tough conversations with different professionals, and, learning to do that, and also learning to be the same person in your personal life and when you walk into work, so that you don't feel like you have to put on a disguise or, obviously there are some differences, but feeling at your core that you're still the same person when you go to work as you are when you're in all your interactions at home and in your community.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, it carries over to even like, do you want to be that kind of parent, right? Like, so sometimes the kind of business owner that I can be is, instead of disciplining any of y'all, I would go back behind you and sweep up and clean up and do what I had to do to fix things and put it back in their place. But then, did you learn anything? And is that what I want to teach my daughter, that I'm always going to clean up the mess she makes? And it really does kind of slide into everything in your life, right? Like, you don't have to apply that to just conflict between coworkers. Like, that could easily just be, and conflict is a very normal thing. Conflict just means a disagreement. It doesn't have to mean like a big, heavy weighted argument. And I think that that's another thing that probably maybe can get misconstrued. Like, conflict is a negative thing, when conflict really is just a difference of opinions.
Right. It's just a meeting of two ideas.
Right.
Trying to take up the same space.
So it doesn't have to be so heavy and bad. And I think that sometimes that's what the word conflict can just.
It's like,
yeah, like, ew, I hate conflict. I don't want it.
All right, Jessica, your book.
Well, speaking of that, I guess both of my books this week, it kind of made me laugh when Sarah told me what her book was, because both of my books are how to get out of conflict without ever getting into it. So, how to win the war before you ever start. And the first one is called The Strategy of Conflict. So it's actually a book that I read in a game theory PhD class for economics, but it's based off a mathematical theory, and it's pretty simple when you break it down. But it just basically is talking about conflict between two different people, whether it's a negotiation or a like war, or you wanted to call it even just like defense, or like if I act in such a way and Carol acts in such a way, then what would Sarah do based off of how I act or she acts? So it's about interpreting things and people's decision making from an outside view before you ever make a decision. That way your cost is the least, if that makes sense.
Kind of role playing it in your head so you're prepared for addressing it in a proper way.
Yeah.
Being
and
a strategist, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you wanted to look at like the easiest, most basic part of it, it's called Prisoner's Dilemma. And I actually I can share my screen real quick if you guys want.
You're so cool.
But
Oh,
I just tried to basically find the easiest diagram I could, because it can be quite a bit of math, right? But basically, if you think about like two kids and they got in trouble at school. Now they're both being called into the principal's office, and they both have a reward if they deny, and they're both going to get in trouble if they confess, right? But if they both deny, then they'll get off scot-free. If one player denies, then the other one will get 5 days of detention, but he confessed first, right? So he's going to get the least amount, and then the opposite, or they could both confess. And it's just basically like putting different weighted measures on those and being able to forecast what people will do in advance to them making their decisions.
I can see that being a book that you would enjoy with your analytical mind.
right.
That's cool.
Well, and if anybody is interested, I wrote a very boring, like 150-page dissertation on it.
Wow.
I fell in love with just thinking about, so if Daniel's going to do something, then the outcome of that could be three things, right? Mm-hmm. And then the outcome for Sarah will be based off of what I do off of each one of Daniel's 3 decisions, right? So then she has 9 decisions, and it kind of like goes from there. And I just think it's really interesting to be able to forecast exactly what's going to happen before it ever happens. So if you know that it could be really bad if you say this, I'm probably not going to use that wording. You know what I mean? I'm going to go with something more in the middle and mild.
I feel like that book, especially you and I just having worked in service industry, I feel like we learn what that book teaches you just like in the job of service industry, because we have to like predict what this table is going to do from the moment they sit down. So I feel like that book's a good thing to teach people that don't do service industry. Like, this is how a lot of it's going to work no matter where you're at. But like,
well, and it doesn't,
people
would think it's like based off of like prejudgments, but it's really not. It's actually very, very mathematical. Like if you're going to pick A, B, or C based off of what your wife picked, because if she picked a chicken sandwich, the likelihood of you picking a fillet and scallops and lobster just went down 50%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
True.
It's based off of probability pretty much.
Or like you're going out and someone's like, well, I'm going to order a drink. You're more likely now to be like, okay, well, let me order a drink too.
But if nobody else at the table is, then you're going to either feel probably more shy about doing it, or you might even go over to the bar and do it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like something that, as a server, you like go to that table, and as soon as one person orders a drink, you're like, okay, so they're probably all going to drink at this point. Let me make sure I get their IDs. And then this person is obviously over 21. They're probably going to be upset that I asked for their ID, so let me make a funny joke while asking for their ID.
And now it's a little bit more smoothly, right? Like, exactly. So just premeditating like the next step and the next step. Exactly. And it can be very intuitive. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to just really dissect those types of things, and then to be able to look at, and I guess from a marketing perspective, right? How is your audience going to react if you put out 3 different ads, and then they could act 3 different ways off of each, or 5 ways off of each one of those ads, you know, and to be able to track those and look and dial in on those decisions too, right? So it just, you can use it in your personal life with your kids. You can use it in war, is really what it should be about. And most people, like I said, if you look up the prisoner's dilemma, that's pretty much the basic one. And it's just about 2 people getting caught, right? Robbing a bank or whatever.
And how are they going to act?
What are the outcomes? They get separated, and they can each tell on each other. They can each say nothing, or they can each tell.
Oh, no.
Right. And what are the consequences of that?
Meanwhile, Brian over here is recommending Green Eggs and Ham because Sarah recommended it to him.
Oh, the Places You Will Go is a good book.
I like that one. Yeah, I like that one.
I mean,
go ahead, Sarah. She wants to say something about Green Eggs and Ham. Do it.
Well, I just shared that my son did not do a summer reading project. So he really brought me that book like one day ago and said, Mom, I'm reading Green Eggs and Ham. So it's so hilarious that Brian just put that in there, like him and Corey are connected or something.
That's funny.
ESP, you check his text messages.
There was another book. Honestly, though, Green Eggs and Ham is kind of funny because the other book that I had on tap to talk about was it's called The Power of Starting Something Stupid. And so I say his name right, Richie Norton. But I liked it because, number one, the title got me. I saw somebody else reading it, and so I just was like, I want to see what that's about. And it's honestly just about trusting in yourself to make that step and to do what somebody else may think is weird or stupid, and how a lot of times that turns out to be the best idea. You know, brings you success, helps other people, whatever. But just knowing in yourself that it's okay to take that step and do what someone else may think is stupid. And just believing in it. I mean, Green Eggs and Ham, my sister used to make us green eggs and green cornbread so that we would eat it. So, doing something different that may bring you the outcome that you've been looking for anyway.
No, you're absolutely right. Who even would have thought, the squatty potty, right?
Yeah.
Look at the easiest things in life, and you don't think about it. And probably 20 years ago, they'd be like, what are you talking about? You're going to stream something on the TV? What? And
one of the examples the author used was having iPads in restaurants for people to order from.
Yeah, people thought that was crazy. And now it's very, it's common, especially for your appetizers and your drinks, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, let me tell you, I love being able to just hit the reorder my drink. Then the server comes over and is like, do you want another drink? I'm like, it's already ordered.
At some point thought even, Edison was nuts, right?
That's another example. Yeah.
What? With a fluorescent, huh?
Yeah. That's
no, you're not. You're going to light yourself on fire. Okay.
Yep.
Somebody thought it was stupid, but it light up the world.
Yeah. So, that was one I just happened across, like I said, but I really like how it encourages you to find what works for you and to believe enough in yourself to actually, and that's not like running blind into it, but having the courage to say, I want to do this. Now, how do I do this? I feel like I think that this is going to work. So what steps do I need to take to make it work? And then trusting yourself and trusting your research and the process that you've gone through to get it there.
And not getting into that little voice maybe that tells you that you're stupid, but you're not stupid, but it's in the back of your head that's that self-doubt, right?
Yeah. Well, like me joining up with you guys, I didn't know about all this stuff. But it seemed like a cool thing to do, and I wanted to do it. It was interesting to me. It was exciting to me, and I love it. But, who knew? Who knew I'd be blogging about real estate? Kind of cool.
Well, we're super proud of you, really. You're so organized and just good for the team. But before I turn that into like a We Love Carol set,
Because we do. Carol.
It's okay. Really.
Wait, I have a hard question. Are we only doing 2 books tonight?
yes.
Because now I have a conflict.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Hey, I did short on my second one. You can have my extra time.
it's me that goes too long. I'll be quiet.
No. So I guess I will pick, you guys might think I'm nuts, so for my last book, I am going to pick The 5 Love Languages. All right. So I know you probably are thinking this is a relationship book because it really does talk about the way people express and receive love. But I also feel it can be very business-like because the same way you receive love is the same way you bring it to your workplace. All right. So if I do something really, really good, I mean, it's great if Jessica told me, great job, Sarah. But if she spent some quality time with me, my heart would be full. So I know that it is a relationship book and it has impacted a lot of people's relationships, but it also can affect your relationships with your coworkers if you understand how they receive praise, or if they are the kind of person you should buy a little gift for or write a thank you note for, or if Jessica should spend a little quality time with me. Those kind of things make big impacts in the workplace.
Jessica,
All right.
I think she's hinting at something.
I
So-
think
I know, because I've worked for Brian Kirk. With Brian Kirk for so long, he loves words of affirmation. Like if you told that kid he did a great job, if you made a joke and said he didn't do such a good job, like I did one time, I don't think he talked for 2 days in the office, and I felt horrible. It was just a joke,
I'm
Brian
like,
Kirk.
what did I do? What did I do? And you don't even really know. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and love isn't one thing, right? Like love can be appreciation. Like you can call it love, but it's also just the way we experience communication in a positive manner, right?
Yeah, romantic love isn't the only type of love.
Exactly. Yeah. And language and things like that. Like you have to communicate and have relationships with your coworkers. And let's be honest, most of the time, especially when you're going to a job every day, which I mean, we're pretty lucky in a lot of ways that we don't all drive to work except for poor Sarah Barra. But you spend more time with those people than you do with your own family a lot of time. And you really do build up pretty serious relationships. So when those relationships get damaged because you don't know what their love connections are, that could be really painful too, right? And again, to bring it back to managing a restaurant, which I shouldn't always do, but there was a cook there that one time he did a great job, and I called him out on the line and claps for everybody, and then he was like, "I'm not talking to you."
Yeah.
And I was like, Scott, what did I do?
I knew exactly who it was.
And he was like, I hate you. I literally, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
It took a while. And we're close now, but it did take a while to gain that back again, because that that was embarrassing. That was deeply embarrassing to him. And I just didn't understand that at the time, being
Yeah.
Well, like my boys, my husband and his dad, they did little sarcastic things back and forth, and it's funny to them, and some of the nephews and some of his brother, whatever. But my boys, they don't translate sarcasm. They're sitting there trying to figure out what they did wrong. So, I mean, I think you're right, Sarah. I think that book really applies across the board, because it's not just about how people recognize that you love them, but it's about how people communicate and how they receive things, and more about kind of their tender edges, what's going to affect them in a positive way and what's going to affect them in a negative way. And in business, that is important to know. Or you're going to alienate all your employees.
Right.
No, I mean, are you? Because and especially, I mean, we all make mistakes as managers, as business people, but to be able to recognize them and say, like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And like,
Yeah.
let's all read this book and let's learn a little something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that that's powerful. And also to swallow your pride when you're wrong and apologize. Because I know
That never tastes good.
no, but I don't mind. I guess for me, that's one thing. If I screw up, I would never want to hurt somebody's feelings. So I also think as any business owner or manager of people caring about their feelings, they're not going to want to work for you if you don't give them something worth working for.
Right.
And if you make people feel degraded or belittled or in any way that you don't care what their feelings are, right? Like that definitely diminishes the relationship and you'll begin to lose your employee retention.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're seeing a lot of that within the past like 2 years. And that's why a lot of companies right now are having that issue of being like, we're understaffed. And it's because they were not caring about their employees for so long that people are now like, no, I can find better.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it happens a lot when things become super bureaucratic, right? And there's never like a check-in. Like what did Sarah just say was so important for her, that we need to spend some quality time. And as things get, you know, especially in a bureaucratic system or like big, huge corporations, it's easy to get those things lost, but you have to be like, no, stop. Who's on my immediate team and what do they need to fulfill you can call it a love cycle, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's basically like intentional communication, right? I would never want to hurt my team, so I want to build them up and I want to speak to them in a way that makes them each feel valued independently.
And it's also kind of hard to sometimes meet everyone's needs in the virtual world too. As we're all working more at home, or even large businesses are going the virtual style, it's hard to meet all of the employees' needs as a supervisor. Like, do I know if Carol needs everything for the day? It's a lot more the checking and balancing and all of that. So
for sure. Sometimes it is a little easier when you're all in a setting, like a work setting, right? Because you can just be like, nope, we're meeting down the hallway at 12:15. And sometimes when you're in a virtual world, it's like wrangling elephants, right? Like pulling everybody in, and because everybody has different lives and styles and things. But no, I think that that's an awesome book as far as teaching people just in general respect for individuals' personality styles, I guess, right? Good choice, Sarah. Daniel, I don't want to skip you.
I didn't know I needed to.
My last one is, or it could be kind of long, but we're going to run short on time anyway, so I'm going to keep it tight. Unless Sarah wants to do her last one, because we were going to cut it off anyway.
Well, I'm in the middle of reading it, so I can't really talk about the entire book in the full, but it just speaks to me. So, no, Jess, you can go.
No, finish now. You do it.
The book I'm reading right now is Nice Girls Don't Get Corner Offices. All right. When I saw the title of this book, skimming through leadership books, I thought it was a joke. But I kind of feel like the title just spoke to me, because sometimes I feel like I have given up career opportunities because I am the nice person. I will be the one, oh, you need my help? I'll just go over here and do this, instead of actually focusing on my job. Or I'll be the person to be like, oh, I can take on all of this on my plate, and then be like, why did I take it all on? Like, maybe I should have divvied it up more to my team. And it kind of goes through some, some points that like really spoke to me of things that you should do to really accelerate your career. So that was my book I'm really excited about, because I'm reading it right now. Sorry, Daniel, to steal your time.
I don't think you stole anybody's time.
I don't think it's just for nice. It's not just for girls or women. It does speak to a lot of that. But I could see as men making some of the same things. Like, I know one of them is like, what you put out on social media will always be out on social media. And that speaks to our entire audience and all of us before someone comes on as a client, before we hire anyone, we're scrubbing their social media. So, I mean, that's one of those things that you might apply for a job, or you might want to get a client, or you found a great investor that's going to join you, and then they look at your personal Facebook and then they're like, "Ooh, I don't think that we really align very well." So,
Mhm.
that's one of the things in this book, that, when you put the social media out there, you can't get
It's
it
out
back.
there.
It's out there.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think when we talked about it a little bit earlier today, the one thing that came to mind is it's not really so much about not being nice. It's about not being a pushover
Yeah.
and not being like to set boundaries and say that there are limits. You get what I'm so
Right.
it's not about, you don't have to be not the nice girl to not get the corner office, but you definitely have to set boundaries and limits and expectations. And when they are not met, then you have to hold people accountable, right?
And then you have to have those crucial conversations.
Right there at the end, accountability.
Yeah. Then you have to have those crucial conversations.
That's why I said, "Oh, it stabbed me right there. Did you get it? Oh, that was my green pain." And I guess if you want, it's going to take us to my last book, which is again, How to Get Out of Conflict. So it's called The Art of War. I'm pretty sure most people are very familiar with it. 13th century Sun Tzu, basically just, it is about military tactics, but it's also telling you just some basic things about like how to plan and calculate and lead your armies to victory, and that victory without any fight at all is actually the most advantageous way to win. So it also tells you about like 5 traits of a successful military operation. I always thought that was pretty cool to look at the weather, meaning not just the physical weather, yes, the physical weather outside, but the entire atmosphere of the situation at the time, the terrain, your leadership, and the discipline of those underneath of the leaderships. And that those are, all very calculated things before you enter a strategic, whether it be a full-blown war or just a conflict within your own household about who's going to do the laundry, right? Who's got the higher stacks on both sides here? Who's going to win, and how can I evade this? And it's basically about resolution tactics. So I guess for me personally, I enjoy it because, as I would say, it's been very prominently pointed out that Jessica does not enjoy conflict.
I love you.
No, and I adore you all too. It's my biggest crook in my side. But I think that, summing up both sides and looking at things in a very analytical way is something that obviously always appeals to me. So I like to look at, the balancing features on both sides and then weigh my options going into things, right? And that's pretty much the point in the book, is how to fight and win a war without fighting at all.
That's smart.
So anybody out there in the world have any comments, questions? I know we're supposed to wrap it up at 6:45 today.
Oh,
So
yeah,
still
6
daylight
minutes.
time. Sorry, Sarah.
No.
I see it's like getting dark there for her and for us.
Listen, I can see the sun like setting here, and in yours it's changing too.
Yeah, it's like getting right below my nose right now.
Mhm.
I feel like I have to come down.
Your eyes are so pretty when you put them
I can't-
directly
I
in
know.
the
Really?
sun.
You should just stay just like that.
Yeah,
They're
they're
just
like
like-
electric or something. Just
No, I can't see any of you. It's no good. I'm
Hey,
Well,
fun fact, we get to do this again next week, right?
yes, we do. Everybody join us next week. And I have been in touch with a very special surprise guest. So if we can pull this off, it might be fun next week.
yay! I thought it was pretty fun this week.
I think it's fun every week.
I'm looking forward to the show where we have Daniel and Brian talk. That's going to be the best. I've already started my list of questions for them. So
I mean,
Well, and I
Yeah.
think if for all those people out there that are watching right now, if Twitch is your thing, I think that is going to probably be our October
please.
Or
I-
isn't your thing and
But
you're
it's
thinking
our
about it?
October webinar is on Twitch, and we're going to let the boys just do it.
I got
I have to
questions.
get my
Check it out.
nephews on there and my brother-in-law.
That's
Jamie
I
and
got
Alex, y'all
questions.
need to get on that one.
I'm going to take a throat lozenge and just like hang out, and they're just going to click away.
I'm going
There
to
you
start
go.
asking all these wild questions.
Ask away. I'm by no means an expert on it, but I have come leaps and bounds since starting Twitch in January.
Right.
And
but
I feel so
between-
old, just barely hearing about it and starting to learn about it. I feel old. Yeah.
Well, also Twitch has been around for a while, but it really didn't gain as much traction as it has until COVID happened and everyone got locked down and
Yeah.
people were like, how do I interact with people without going out? And Twitch opened that up to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, and I know I've seen my husband do it, right? Where they're downstairs and they get so mad at the game and they can't figure out how to do the next thing. Like, obviously, everybody's out there looking up how to. So Twitch is not just for gaming; it's for anything that you want to learn how to, right? But our October webinar will be very probably gaming oriented, and Twitch oriented. But you can apply that to anything that you would want to how to DIY, and then it's applicable for you too. So
yeah.
There you
There's
go.
people that do art, there's people that build, there's people that DJ, there's everything on Twitch pretty much at this point now.
That's cool.
Wow.
all right. Well, I officially can't see anything because this is in my eyes.
But you
But
look
you look
great.
beautiful.
Fabulous.
Doesn't matter if I can't see you.
You look fabulous.
That sun is moving so fast.
I know.
Like it was here and now it's just like
And I can't sit back far enough to get out of it now, guys. Like, so I'm sorry. Well, I will see you all again next week, and I'm looking forward to it. I do hope everybody out there that was watching learned something about business books. I know I did, and I am pretty excited to read some new ones myself now.
Me too.
So,
Me
Sarah,
too.
you can send me that in the mail because
I will.
I need it. So I appreciate it more than you know.
Let's go
Bye,
to the
guys.
store.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.